Hello everybody and welcome back to Space Engineers, where today we're going to be looking at trains, because I like trains. Without further ado, let's get straight on to today's video. Okay, so when you think of trains, you think of two things. First of all, you think of an actual train, like the actual carriages or an engine, train engine, or maybe a steam engine, something like that. And the second thing, or at least I hope you think about, is train track. Because tracks are very important for a train to actually work. And it's quite simple in real life. You have a little rail and then the wheels are, angled, so they'll always sit in the center. That's like just a routine rail. So let's build on the Space Engineers where physics doesn't make sense, everything clangs out and wheels explode. I'm good? Good. Or at least we're going to look into the basics of me having a look at rail. And a little bit further on with a couple of the mechanisms which I'll show towards the end. But I've talked for too long. So let's get straight on to the first part, shall we? So, first thing I wanted to experiment with was different types of blocks that I could use to make a kind of train. The first thing I thought of was, what if I make blocks using these interior passage hallways. Maybe the wheels can sit in here, and that way the wheels can't derail, and then you could have a train set on top. It'd be quite a bulky idea, but it might work. Unfortunately, for whatever reason, wheels just don't drive inside these like you would expect them to. That's me pressing backwards, and that's me pressing forwards. So straight away there, somehow it's doing it in the opposite way, and it just doesn't make sense. I put these wheels on, or these wheel suspensions on sideways, just so it would clear this like little bit on the inside bit, and it just doesn't work. So immediately that was a bust. I tried it both with vertical wheels like that and with horizontal wheels, just didn't work. So the next thing I thought of was, what else in this massive list of blocks could I use? So I thought of, or had a good look through, and one of them I saw was the ladder, and the other one I saw was the, wherever it is here, the nanotubes. Because the nanotubes kind of do look like track to begin with, and so do the ladders in some way. Like, it's an interesting kind of style. The first thing I tried, which was a little bit annoying, I found out these wheels had to be, actually, the first thing I tried was this. I knew the wheels had to be able to fit, so I tried to use it with rotors. And I doubled up the wheels. It looks good. Added some wheels down the center with more rotors to get it to work. So if I try and press one, it just doesn't drive. I don't know why. But it kind of works, but it just doesn't work how I really wanted it to work. You can see it sort of gets stuck too easily. And I've just messed up. Oh, no. But yeah, so that one don't work. So the next thing I tried was adding wheels to, actually using wheels on suspensions, because obviously these wheels have a bit more friction. It's easier to control with a mouse. Keyboard in this case. The only problem is the wheels are offset by a block, so but it does work, and it works surprisingly well. Like, a little bit bouncy, but I'm sure that I can get this to work somewhere or another, and maybe an option. The only issue, which actually both of these two haven't moved on to that one, is the size of these blocks is like a full-size block for large grid. It's not just like one little section where you could use small blocks. So that's a little bit harder. But then this one was the nanotubes, and again, works really nicely. I honestly think that I could make some kind of cool thing out of it. The only problem is it's not easy to add any support brackets, like, because it's a half block. Don't really know what blocks I could actually use, because obviously I can't have anything sticking over. So I'd have to use something like half blocks strapped to the edge or something like that. That way these little these inner wheels here don't, you know, get caught on any of these blocks. But that could honestly work, and that would make it look interesting. But let's move on to more tracky looking track, shall we? So this was the next one. Obviously, what if I just use some actual blocks? Then I can attach some wheels to it. I can add some of the bigger wheels for it to sit on. And this is looking a bit more like a train. I actually made a little carriage where they have these little bogies. They spick and rotate. And lo and behold, this thing works. Works very nice and stably in a straight line. Got good brakes. And yeah. So these little inner wheels keep the wheels there, or keeps it all in the center. And these, obviously, these bigger wheels allow it to drive. Nice and easy, eh? It looks fairly nice. And yeah, I'm quite happy with it. The next thing I tried was to make some thicker type wheels and some bigger wheels. And this was for one main reason. I designed this track first before I designed any of these other ones. And after I designed this, I designed some other like I designed a curve and like a run. I split off junction. I can't remember what they're called, but I designed one of them. And the problem is, for some reason in this game, these wheels can pass through a block. These small wheels can just pass through a block when you're on a curve if you've got enough weight. So you really want 3x3 wheels, at least, to make sure that you have enough stability. Which makes these wheels further, like, the whole track's further apart. I don't think that's too big of an issue. And as you can see, this one also works great. The only problem is I can't run it on, or have these rails, these little track bits here that I added. Because the wheels get stuck for going too low. These wheels end up hitting just below. So what you'd actually have to do is add another block and have like your bottom part there. That won't have any issue, but I designed this whole little path and found out that I would actually get wedged on it. But for the bit I can actually test, works really nice. I also added, you see here, this half block little lip. Now what does this do? This basically means that these wheels, if they fully lift up, this edge is going to whack off this edge here. And that is just going to allow it to stay a bit on the track and be a bit more supportive. Nice and easy. Obviously this is a small grid. It'd be a bit harder to build with. However, you get the benefit of building in these little tiny block segments. But that's when I moved on to some larger grid based ones. Again, I wouldn't have the issue with a block even this big. It's never going to get caught. I could even use probably use the 3x3 because these are the 5x5 wheels. But I could probably even use the 1x1s if I could somehow find a way to get it close enough and it wouldn't hit. But again, I use the same kind of style of having block going on the inside. It doesn't matter for these bigger wheels because you see here these suspensions you can pass straight through. And it works really nice and stably. If I was actually going to build a train, this is probably my actual go-to strategy. It seems like this is honestly one of the most stable ones I've designed. And looks really clean. The only thing I'm not too happy with and I prefer about the smaller track, it's just the overall size of a track and how big it is. Then if I design a big train, it shouldn't matter too much. But that's where I tried to build with just some half blocks. So these ones are half blocks to the outside. So if I got some blocks here, one of them is placed like that, and the other one is placed like that. So you basically get a block in the center and then a half block and a half block. Here, I designed it so they're both facing the same way. So we've got one there and one on top of it there. Which basically means you have 1.5 blocks. So it's half a block narrower. And allowed me to use smaller wheels than what's there. And it works just as well. You can see, very stable all the way along, no issues whatsoever. Stops nicely and goes obviously in reverse as easily as it goes forward. Again, and another very stable kind of design. But just a little bit on the big size, for the size of like these wheels and all of that. So the next thing I tried is blast door blocks, because at least these kind of blast door blocks, they are more narrow than they are tall. So you'd have like a good amount of gap. This is about the closest to a 1 block gap that you can get. So we started off with 2, we moved to 1, and now we're on, we moved to 2 to 1.5, and now we're at 1. So you can probably imagine this one works just about as well as all the other ones. I'm using some paneling on top again, which adds a little bit. It does the same kind of thing as the small grids do. It keeps the wheels nicely tucked under the edge and means that it can't just jump off the track on a turn or something like that. But yeah, these are the tracks I designed. So starting, like I said, from the small ones at the beginning to designing these longer runs. I think we're definitely getting there. My personal favourite has to be probably these two. I like this one because it's small grid. I like how small the tracks are compared to these. But I love how stable this one is. But then I was like, okay, so how would I make a curve? But I decided, because why not, let's build a curve with the half block ones. Not for any particular reason other than I think that's just the one I chose. It would be the same process for all of them. So I added a nice rotor on top. So I attached it to, this block's attached to this block here, added a rotor, attached it to this one, and then built a track onto it. And this rotor is just set to a 2 degree. So it's locked at both angles are lower and upper at 2 degrees. And as you can see, it gives a little bit of a gap, a little bit of a corner. But nothing, I think, too much. And then I stacked that a load of times all the way on. And you can see it gives a very nice slow corner. Of which, if I was in a vehicle, same one as what was on that track there. Why on earth did that just jump? It can go around this corner at full speed. Oop. See? Oh, hello. Now this is one problem I have had. I don't really know why, but if I press the sort of button to lower the suspension, it fixes itself a bit. I don't really know the reason. I think it's the bottom of the bottom wheels getting caught on the top because they have a bigger hitbox. But it works some other time, flawlessly without any issues, and randomly it doesn't. That's why I'm thinking this one might not be the best for a track. That's why I'm thinking one of those other two are going to be a bit more, you know, long-lasting, less prone to issues. And you may be wondering, why am I making such a big curve and not just a shorter one? So here you can see a very sharp one using some of the smaller blocks. Right here, just straight small. And then this one is a much bigger sweeping curve. And yeah, let's just show you what happens if I do the small one. So for a start, it's just very, very tight. Like, sure, it can do it, but it's very, very tight. Oh. It can't even do it because it can't quite get around. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's why you don't make it so tight. And imagine if you were going at like 100 meters a second there, you would go straight off that thing. Oh yeah, it has derailed. Okay. That's why you don't build with really sharp corners. But what about with a bigger sweeping curve, eh? Smooth. Very, very smooth. And no issues whatsoever. Now, if I could probably even increase the strength. I knew what the wheels were. There we go. Let's increase the speed limit just to something crazy. And yeah, it can do that, no issue whatsoever. You can see, works very nicely. The little bogey wheel segments turn nicely, and it's all smooth and nice. Now you may be wondering how I did this bit. I'm not going to go too into depth, because I'm sure I can make another video where I go a bit more into depth. But it's essentially, this one I'm using just hinges at an angle. Now this is slightly different type of corner to this one. So as with this one, it was a segment, so these two are attached, and it just bends and attached. These ones, each of the actual angle, like I guess track segments or track pieces, are on their own blocks. So these are not they're not connected to each other. And that does two things. First, it allows you to get the actual tracks sort of closer to each part. You don't have a gap between them for small grid. But the only downside is that they can have an option of getting further apart, where those ones are, you know, you'll always have it at the same distance in parallel. These ones can drift a bit more further apart. But you can easily fix all these issues, to be honest, by just adding some armor paneling to the edge and to the top. Add it to the top just so you can sort of see, but we've got a block at an angle just to give it that little bit extra room. And yeah, it works like you saw, completely smoothly. The problem is, if you go at a super high rate of speed, like I said, these small wheels will leave the track. It will just go straight through that. I'm not sure if I can show it. I might be able to. We can give it a go just to see if I can get it to derail. I don't know if I've got a long enough run-up. If I add all the power to all of these wheels, so if I set the power to full, set the speed limit to full, and give it all the friction it can possibly ever desire, we might be able to get it to blend through. No! Impressive. Come on. It's actually not going to go through this time. Okay, well, I have done testing, and these wheels can glide through. This is why I did this extra half block to try and coax it in. And that might have actually helped it more than I thought it would have. Okay, that's good. And the last thing to show you that I spent a little bit of time on, I haven't fully perfected these, is, like I said, these little edge corners. So this was the first one I tried, and I tried to make it very sort of realistic to how an actual intersect works. The whole idea is you have these, obviously you've got the track which runs up straight, so you'd have like a bar here that would be, it would move, and it would be fully straight, so these inner wheels can slide straight through and drive forward. Or you'd have one that slides here, and another one which, I think this would move outwards. And yeah, so it then opens up the possibility of a track running through. I can show a diagram on the screen now of how, you know, an actual track section works. And it works for the most part. I say for the most part because it doesn't work perfectly. You can see it haven't got the right angle. Like the whole sort of concept of it is there, but I don't know, but just this corner doesn't work. I'm trying to merge blocks which are actually on the grid with blocks that are on subgrids, and these two tracks get too far apart, and then bad corner, and just a lot of stuff doesn't work. So I moved on to the next design, where I try and keep the same kind of you know, idea as that one. So we have these tracks and this tracks, they sort of slide. I can sort of I can show you. So if I press the button, you can see I can switch between track A or track B, or going straight or going left. And you can see if you follow going left, it runs along, it goes through this little gap, it continues along and continue going to the straight part where this one continues there. And then when I activate the actual switch, all of them line up forward, so we can have the little guiding wheels, remember, underneath the vehicle. They have a path going straight through here, and that has a path going straight down there. As you can see, it would work. So let's go straight forward just to show you this. Smooth. Beautiful. And if we click the switch, I've got this to work mostly. Let's see if it works first time. No. No, it doesn't. Alright, thanks for proving me wrong, game. You know, I've only spent like, you know, 6 hours designing all this stuff. So, let's go a little bit slower and just show you why it doesn't work. Because I know it doesn't really work. And the problem is, these guiding wheels. So, for me to have enough gap for the wheel to run in straight forward here, I had to have this lever a taper, and then I try to add, you know, stuff to guide it. And if I go really, really slowly, you can sort of see the wheel on the left-hand side isn't quite in there, but it can get pulled in. However, when it gets pulled in, it also pulls the vehicle up, and then it pulls the vehicle sideways. Not good. Not good at all. So I just said screw it to whole kind of realism and built this thing. Now this thing essentially just uses a corner. So I built a corner. I split the corner up. So if I push this button right here. I split. You can just see the corner is this thing here. And then I did a couple of runs here. And then when I press the button, this whole segment just bends to go straight. Removes all the complex difficulty, and it just works absolutely flawlessly. Again, when you're building stuff like this in this kind of game, you just have to go with whatever, you know, works the most smoothly. But this is the one that works most smoothly, so I don't know what the shaking is. Why is there so much shaking? Why was it shaking so much? Why was it shaking so much? That didn't happen. That didn't happen prior to recording. This is why I just test with actually in the videos themselves. I think the shaking is just having a little bit of a wiggle. I could probably fix that by like increasing the center wheel strength a little bit. I made it like 65 and maybe put a little bit more torque on it. No, that makes it worse. That makes it derail. Okay. Sick drift, bruh. Oh. Timber. Okay. So, but yeah, that's basically what I've been working on. I don't want to go too much further into this video, but the only thing I would say is, do you want to see more of this kind of style? Do you want to see videos of me going further into this whole subject? I do really, really want to make a video or a mini series or something in survival where trains are running and like you can transport big cargo containers and stuff on trains. That just seems really, really like a cool concept to me. And that's why I've been working on these trains. So, do you want to see more videos of it? If you do, make sure to hit the like button and remember to subscribe to the channel if you are new. Helps me out all the time. And yeah, feel free to leave a comment of which design you think I should try and progress through the most. Like I said, I like these two. I like this small grid, and I like this one. Large grid's obviously easier to implement into an actual build because you can ground it, where this one is a little bit harder. You've got to use either subgrids with rotors attaching to them, or you'll have to just use landing gear. And then, of course, these ones are a bit more obscure. I don't know how well these will work in a turn or corner. I probably can quite happily try them out and experiment. The other option I just thought of I could do for these is I could... Don't know if it'll fit. Yeah. Could double it over. So you'd have a bit of a thicker kind of like wheel segment. The only thing is then you wouldn't have any way to attach to the edge of this, as far as I'm aware. Apart from like the sides, so maybe that's a bad idea. By the way, thank you so much for watching, everyone. Hopefully you did enjoy this video. As always, my name has been Quantum Jeep, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!